What is your job at PCA? What do you do?
My job at PCA is as the joint subject leader for BA illustration. That basically means course leader, and I'm sharing that job with you, Ben, with Ben Wright. So that means sort of running the course, doing all the admin stuff that is outside of the teaching, kind of facilitates the teaching.
What students do you teach? What year groups?
I teach mostly year 2, so I run year 2 modules, like the main studio modules, and then I also teach year 3 as well. On year 2 and year 3, we also have Phil Trenery, who teaches on all of the modules on year 2 and year 3, except contextual, and also Mel Brown teaches professional practice in year 2, and then Caroline Pedler teaches everything in year 3. So yeah, we've got quite a big team.
Awesome. Who teaches on year 1?
Ben Wright and Bridget Ashton both teach. They lead things more or less together and are a super efficient team.
Do the lecturers teach across all year groups? Is there opportunities for that?
Yeah, they tend to, because we like to do that as a team as much as possible, because it's nice to have everyone knowing all of the students, and it's just handy for everyone to know what's going on in all year groups. So it's partly for us, it's partly for them. It's just better all round if we can all be teaching as many different students as possible. So where we can, we do that. It's not always possible to do it completely with staffing and stuff like that, but where we can, we do, yeah.
Are there opportunities for students to meet other students from other year groups?
Yes, there are. There are lots of good opportunities. Most basic one is that our studios are one space, so there's a great big sliding door between them. So it means that the 2 studios that our students inhabit can be turned into one big room. So it means that there's a lot of sort of cross-pollination happening all the time. So students are friends across year groups and stuff like that, and they do that without our intervention. And then we also have regular events called the Assembly, which are all year group events that we do in the cinema, in the lecture theatre. They cover a bit of everything. We have visiting lecturers come in for those, and staff present research, students talk about their work, and it's just a really nice place for all of them to kind of come together and just chat about what's going on in their year groups, find out what's going on, and also talk about their own work.
Have there been any highlights from the Assembly this year?
Yeah, so many. I really enjoyed Holly Wales's talk, who's an illustrator local to here. She actually used to teach at the college before my time there, so I didn't really know her. And her talk it was fantastic. It was like inspirational and aspirational and really grounded, and she was just really lovely and answered loads of questions. Another one was a very, very silly assembly that we did for Halloween, where we had a pumpkin carving competition. We invited the head of school, Peter Barker. We made him hold a slimy pumpkin up in front of all the students and got them to vote on it. So that was great fun. Yeah, the assembly's quite good. It's very informal, considering how many students there are and the kind of the scale of it. We wanted it to be something quite informal. So yeah, that's what makes it so much fun.
Are there any exciting projects coming up for the course, or what can we look forward to from the course next year?
We have Lord magazine, which is our course magazine, basically. We did issue 1 at the start of this year, so at the start of the 1920 academic year. And we've just started working on issue 2, so that is going to happen, hopefully, over the summer. There's been a bit of a delay, obviously. We're also having lots of different kinds of shows and stuff that are going to be in lieu of degree shows, including another newspaper, so sort of like a graduate newspaper. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff. I'm sure there's more stuff that I've forgotten. You'll probably remember.
Why would you study at Plymouth College of Art? Why would you want to study there?
I say this to students that we're interviewing because it's a good way to describe it. So it's as an institution, it is small. So if you compared it to like other universities, on the whole, it's small, but it's all art and creative stuff. So if you compare it to an arts faculty in another university, it's actually quite big. So we have this weird thing where it's like a big arts community, which is also a small, agile institution with nothing else sort of bogging it down. So the community seems to be the main thing that draws students in and keeps them here. Everyone they walk past in the corridor is doing something creative, and they want to be part of that. You get to be part of it. So the students that we have at the moment, they rave about it without any input from us. They talk about how sort of supported they feel.
What do you do, Sam?
I am a freelance illustrator and designer and art director, and I do bits and pieces of other stuff as well. And because I am part-time at the college, because I share the role with Ben, it means that I have lots of time to maintain my practice outside college. So it's nice for me because it means that I know that the stuff that I am teaching and talking about is always relevant as possible, because it's informed by the actual industry.
Are you working on anything at the moment?
At the moment, I'm working with a couple of charities doing branding and art direction, and I'm working on a personal illustration project illustration and design to redesign and illustrate the covers of 3 Murakami books.
How's coronavirus affected you?
Oh, coronavirus has made everything very weird, like having to deliver lectures from here in my house. And my partner is in the high risk category, so we have to take even more precautions. So it's all been a bit weird. Yeah, a lot of staying at home and not as much outdoors as I would normally like. But I'm really glad I have a job that can continue at least in some capacity, because we've just continued teaching more or less the same. It's just that it's been remote, and I'm really glad about that because I get a lot of sort of support from the students. They probably don't even know that they're supporting me in that way, but I really like being able to communicate with them and my team and stuff like that. So I'm glad that's all still going.
What's the best thing about coronavirus? What's the best thing that's happened since it started?
The best thing that's happened is I've learned how to bake beer bread, and you can see one in the background there. It's just come out of the oven, and you just put beer and flour in a bowl and then mix it up and then put it in the oven. You don't have to let it prove or anything. It's lovely fluffy bread.
What? That's amazing. Cool. What's the best thing that's come out of the course from coronavirus?
The unbelievable resilience and community spirit of our students. I mean, I knew that they were like a nice bunch of people and we had a nice community and they like each other and all that. But yeah, they've bowled me over with their kindness and generosity to each other, to us. Yeah, it has been... without this, I might not know how lovely they were. As like a group of people and a community. Now we just have proof that they're really willing to look out for each other. Just as an example off the top of my head, there was a bank holiday a few weeks ago, and we normally run life drawing sessions. Because of that bank holiday, we couldn't run one. So instead, one of our third year students just decided to run a life drawing session anyway, and the other students came along and they just did it. They just self-sustained on their own, did a life drawing session. So yeah, it was, yeah. Shall I ask you some questions?
Yeah, go for it.
What do you do at Plymouth College of Art, Ben?
Cool, my name's Benjamin Wright. I'm co-subject leader of illustration with Sam Rowe.
What does that mean?
It means that I help with, as well as teaching and delivering lectures and workshops and seminars, I will also help with the planning behind the scenes. I often talk to students about pastoral issues, a lot of behind the scenes stuff and a lot of stuff that students see. So,
as well as subject leading, you teach mostly year 1, is that right? What kind of thing do you do in year 1?
I mostly deliver on first year, so one of the first tutors that you'll be taught by on the course will be myself and another lecturer called Bridget Ashton. In first year we cover a lot of those initial skills that help you transition from being a student to being a real life illustrator. So we cover a lot of skills and processes that might be quite familiar to you. So a lot of sort of drawing and a lot of printmaking, but also we cover a lot of stuff that might be a bit more interesting in that you start to see how you could bring character design or narrative into that, or how this might affect your professional practice. So we look at a lot of professional practice stuff as well. So we start looking at what the industry looks like, what the industry wants, what a brief looks like, what deadlines are, what some of the more professional expectations are, such as thumbnailing or layouts or composition, a lot of that stuff.
What kind of practical workshop-y stuff can students expect to get involved with in first year?
So a lot of stuff that you might already have tried out. So you might be trying certain print processes out. We tend to cover the big 3, so screen printing, etching and liner printing. You may have done those before, but we tend to cover them in a slightly different context. We do a lot of core Photoshop inductions. So we work with the whole Adobe suite, so Photoshop, Illustrator and InDesign. We look at not just how you might construct an image digitally, but how you can make the best use of some more traditional techniques, and you can bring those over and enhance them on a computer. We look at a lot more context for illustration. So if you're interested in picture books or comics or even just character design, there's a lot of narrative component to that, which we often look at within the first year. So we have lots of narrative projects. We look at typography as well, so a lot of hand lettering, how illustrators might respond to composition and to layout. So you tend to do lots and lots of little projects, getting used to maybe doing a turnover in 2 weeks maybe as opposed to a month.
Is there anything that has surprised you about education or our students in this time, like in the time of coronavirus, good and bad?
I've been really surprised by the tenacity, especially of the first years this year. So with when coronavirus hit, we started looking at how we could deliver remotely and started looking at how we can use usually some online places where we might store information for students to find. We're starting to think about how we can deliver entirely from there. And students have done an excellent job of supporting each other on those platforms. And we've actually found that from the way students have used them in a potentially an unusual way, we've worked with that. So now we pretty much have a digital studio where students can provide online feedback to each other. They can even actually present their work just using very basic things like online slideshows. So it's very, very clear how students are working. And it also actually allows them to learn in a slightly different way as well. So they can often give each other feedback at any time now, as opposed to just being in the studio. They can structure their work how they like. They can bring in resources online that they might have sometimes been reluctant to use, and now they can make the most of it. But also, all of a sudden, students are having to work with what they have, as opposed to the full scope of materials that might have been available to them, and they've been doing an excellent job of that.
Do you think there are any approaches that have been so successful that they will stick because they have application even when there isn't a lockdown?
I think maybe the way that we brief students might have evolved a little bit. So just the use of technology to record something that possibly only needs to be said once but could be repeated any number of times. Again, the way that students are feeding back to each other, we have like an ongoing show and tell with students now. So we're probably going to keep something like that going online, just so to enable the students to possibly access that when they want. But also opening up the potential more for asking students how they want us to interact with them. There's lots of different metrics now for how we can measure that and how we can work with them on that.
What do you do outside teaching at PCA? Like, what is your practice?
I spend my other 4 days a week drawing comics, and I write the comics, I draw them, and then I print them myself on a risograph machine, and then I sell them. And I've been selling loads lately with coronavirus.
You've had some of your comics translated, haven't you?
I have. I've had my comics translated into Polish. I'm also looking at getting them translated into Russian as well, which would be really exciting. My two favourite comics I've done, First Drive and Break In, they're now in Polish.
What's a risograph machine?
The risograph machine is like a photocopier that screen prints. So you develop colour separations for your work, and you print each colour separation one at a time on the pieces of paper. It allows me to print very, very efficiently and fairly cheaply, and to basically have full creative reign over my work at an affordable price. What's been your favourite thing this year?
The cardboard fun fair that we had at the very beginning of the year was ridiculous good fun. So we did I suppose it was just like a huge icebreaker event at the very start of the year to get all of our students mixed together, especially the year ones, because they are like fresh in there and they've never met anyone before. And we wanted them all mixing with each other and then also mixing with the other year groups. So we got them into groups that were across year group. Mm-hmm. So you'd have like a group of students that was where there were some year ones, some year twos and some year threes. We gave them some prompts that they had to work from, and then using those, they had to in each team they had to build a fun fair attraction just out of cardboard. We collect cardboard for like the whole year just for this kind of thing each year. They had to build some kind of attraction, so there was like hoop tossing things and fishing games and everything. They each had to build one, like paint it, put it together, it had to like function properly, and then we pushed all the tables out of the way in the studios, and we just had an enormous fun fair for all year groups. And people made like popcorn and currency so that you could like spend it on certain things, and it was so much fun. It was so silly and worked so well as an icebreaker, I think.
What really impressed me about that task was it's a prime example of where we give minimum input to the students. and we get a maximum output. They're all these intelligent, energetic, creative individuals that, given cardboard and some old paint, can do absolutely anything.
Also, the value of something that doesn't have an accessible outcome. I know that's sort of maybe controversial to say that as a teacher, but something like that where there's not something that we mark at the end. The only point is to have a big silly funfair would actually turn out to be really valuable. That there might be effects that we're still feeling now in the way that our students operate as a community because of that event.
I think that's the value in our course, really, isn't it? Because it's the curriculum only really represents a very small fraction of the experience. You have students moving away from home, living in halls, meeting new people for the first time, meeting people from all over the world. But then we also have the assembly, the job wall. You have a community of the college which do all weird, wacky things that our students never would have expected to ever meet or exist in the first place. But it's all jumbled together.
For a lot of our students, there's often like a realisation at some point that is to do with how little being an illustrator is to do with drawing pictures and how much more of the other stuff there is, like being able to look out for each other in a community, because there aren't that many illustrators in the world compared to, like plumbers and carpenters and stuff. Being able to work to deadlines and take feedback really well and give good feedback as well. Like all that stuff is actually, that probably makes up, when you combine it, makes up more of the job than being able to draw nice pictures does. I think that's often like a realization for students as on their degree, when they realize, although they are drawing pictures and that might be the medium of a lot of their learning, that's not the only thing they're learning,
When the campus reopens, what are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to just being back in a physical space that is for us and having all the students back together again. I think that's going to be really sort of, I don't know, I'm probably going to find it emotional because it's just going to be, this has been like the longest time out of that I've had since teaching. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to just having everyone back in the same space again, because I think that although we've really done well to adapt to this, there's nothing quite like it. What are you most looking forward to?
So although social distancing might continue for a bit, I'm really looking forward to running some really big sessions with first years. I really want to have more sharing across all 3 years. Missing speaking in front of a room full of people. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing what everyone else gets up to. Looking forward to cruising around the studio again, picking on students. Do you feel that portfolio for interview, wherever you're from, and whether you've been studying on an art course for the past couple of years, or whether you have never studied art before in your life, and whether you're very, very confident or whether you're very, very worried, we expect to see drawing and problem solving through drawing. So whether you're setting yourself a little project, or you'd even like us to set you a little project, we would like to see evidence of problem solving. We would like to see evidence of observational drawing. So whether you just go to a cafe for half an hour or you're attending a life drawing session in your local town, anything like that would be really, really exciting to see. You don't need to leave anything out of your portfolio. Please bring your sketchbooks. But do also consider what you want us to see. It says a lot about a student who might bring something that is presentable. So there's no need to necessarily bring a big A1 folder, but you might choose to gather together a selection of pieces and put them in some sort of semblance.
So the thing that prospective students often think is the most important thing to bring to an illustration interview is really nice pictures, like really nice illustrations. And in reality, the thing that is much, much more important than that is evidence of the way that students think, the way they problem solve, how they come to those conclusions, because how a student can do that and how willing they are to build on that is the thing that will make a degree fulfilling for you, and not how good you are at drawing pictures, because that is something different. That's something slightly different.
And that's something that can be built on the program. We want to see what interests you really.
Again, there's another conversation I have with students fairly frequently, is that it's remembering that, as well as the fact that knowing how to draw nice pictures is not necessarily the most important thing when you come to interview, it's also not the most important thing when you're on a degree. So just make sure you're bearing in mind that when you start a degree, you are there to learn stuff. You're not necessarily there just to emulate being a professional. You're there to learn as much as you can. And that should involve drawing a lot of bad pictures, not just drawing good pictures. So try and remind yourself of that.
And the first step of being awesome at something is being bad at it, isn't it? According to Jake the dog.